Boston College football has had a lot of excitement around them with the hiring of Bill O'Brien. There's one writer out there that is disrespecting the Eagles. I'm going to get into what he thinks and why I think he's wrong.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor and publisher of 247's Eagle Insider. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. BC football has a lot of excitement around them right now with the hiring of Bill O'Brien, their first real legit head coach in years. You've had guys that have come in. Jeff Hafley, he was learning on the job. Steve Addazio, not a lot of excitement. Frank Spaziani, lifetime assistant. Bill O'Brien, we know his story. He won at Penn State. He won with the Texans. Now his job is to bring wins to BC. And for his credit, he gets to come into a program that won 7 games last year and is returning, other than 2 offensive linemen and Elijah Jones, they're not really losing a lot in terms of depth. Yes, losing Christian Mahogany. Yes, losing Kyle Hergel is a big deal. But your cupboard's not bare. Elijah Jones, that's a big loss too, but before Jeff Hafley left, he hit up the transfer portal and brought in some guys that could cover what he did. Now, you would think 7-win team in 2023, you'd look ahead to this upcoming season and you'd think to yourself, well, you know what? Their schedule's a little tough. Maybe they'll win 6 or 7 games again. They're not going to take that step forward, but they're not going to go backwards. Well, if you listen to my folks over at 247, they don't agree with you, because if you look at our screen right now, if you're on YouTube, Grant Hughes of 247 has BC at 2-10. Just what? Yes, I said that right. 2-10. Now, earlier today, I was looking at, I actually posted it on 247's BC Insiders Instagram, the odds to win the ACC title. And BC had absurd odds, like really, really bad. And believe me, they're not going to win the ACC. But is this team better than 2 wins? Yes, their schedule is tough. They're going to play Michigan State. They're going to play Missouri. They're going to play Florida State. But they play Duquesne. They play a Western Kentucky team, if you listen to Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider, who is rebuilding. You play Syracuse. You play UVA, who was not good. You play Stanford, who's not good. You play you play Pitt, who's not good. You play SMU, who you beat last year. And your team should be better. You brought in a new defensive coordinator who will hopefully fix things. You brought in a quarterback guru who should maximize what you have in Thomas Castellanos. So color me a little skeptical that BC would take that big of a step back, especially when you have a talented quarterback. Like if Bill O'Brien can fix a few things with Thomas Castellanos, there's no reason that this team can beat teams that are on par with them. And that you have a coach now that should not be crapping himself against inferior opponents, right? Like every game that Jeff Hafley had played, didn't matter who you were playing against. It was white knuckle, hold on to your butts type of games, right? We saw them lose to Northern Illinois. We saw them almost lose to Holy Cross. We saw them almost lose to UConn. We saw them lose to UConn. We saw them lose to Rutgers. He could never put a bad team away. I think this is maybe me being too optimistic, that Bill O'Brien's a better coach than that. He's going to be way more prepared. I mean, look at what Steve Addazio did, right? Go back to Daz for a second. Daz, the one thing with Daz that you always knew was that most of the times, other than that Kansas game, Most of the time when you played bad teams, that team would be prepared to smack them and kick the crap out of them. And he did that pretty consistently over his years here. Jeff Halfley couldn't do that. I think Bill O'Brien will be more like Dazio there, where he's going to be able to have this team ready to go. I still think right now, I had BC at 6-6 or 5-7 when Jeff Halfley was still here. I think this is a bowl team. I think you have too much talent, especially offensively, for this team to go below 500 next year. You have a good coach. You should be able to win some of those games. There's teams I am not buying on that I think BC should be able to beat. Michigan State, I think BC should still be better than them. I still think that BC is better than Cal, Stanford, Virginia, Georgia Tech. There's a lot of teams that they're playing that I feel like BC should be able to beat. And you avoid Clemson. You avoid Miami this year. That's good. So I was a little annoyed by this. And you know what? It's March. No one knows anything. No one knows what's going on. And the teams, the funny thing is, we're going to be sitting through spring practice right now. And you watch the spring game. Yes, as we've always seen, the offense and defense is not going to be what you see in the spring. But there's a good chance that the team that you see is not going to be the team that you see in the fall. Remember, we watched the Jay McGillis spring game last spring, watching Emmett Moorhead out there going, that's our quarterback. I wonder how he's looking. Let's talk about his performance. Did he do what he needed to do? The quarterback that got you to the Fenway Bowl, that was the star of the game, the season, wasn't even on the roster at the spring game. He didn't get to BC. He didn't commit to BC until May. Thomas Castellanos, I'm talking about here. So this is way too early because we're going to have another transfer portal period. And I still believe that BC has a couple of needs that Bill O'Brien needs to address that could help them make sure that they maximize their season, make sure that they maximize their chances of getting to a bowl game. I've said all along, I'd love to see them get one more guard. I'd love to see them get a defensive lineman. And they're going to also have to balance the inevitable, which is that there's going to be players that leave too. I'm going to tell you folks right now, there's going to be Bill O'Brien's staff is going to be tougher. I think they're going to be harder on the players than Jeff Halfley's staff was. And I think that's going to rub some players the wrong way, and those players will leave. So don't be surprised if there's a player or two that go, but that'll give them more time in the transfer portal, to land some more players, because that's going to be what they need to do. Now, in our second segment, I want to get into a former Boston College player that has been teasing that he's joining the staff. I want to talk a little bit about old friend Will Blackmon. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Now, if you're like me, you love going to shows, going to concerts, going to games. Gametime has got you covered. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy your tickets to your next big event, because Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And with last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. With the Red Sox starting up, if I'm thinking of going to a game, I can go to Gametime. I'm a last-minute type of guy too. I can go there. I'll get a good deal. I'll know the prices, and the price that I see is the price I'm paying. There's no hidden fees. It's an all-in price. That's what you pay. I love Gametime, so you should check it out too. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. This is Locked On BC, AJ Black, and thank you all for listening. We're going to chat here about a player that used to play in the Maroon and Golds. He was there when I was at Boston College, Will Blackmon. Will Blackmon is, he was one of the most electric players Boston College has ever had. You know, he played wide receiver, he played cornerback, he played safe. Yeah, he was a corner, big on special teams, and he had a lengthy career in the NFL. He played with the Packers, the Washington, it was at the Redskins at that point, and the Jaguars, and I'm sure there's other teams. I'm just blanking on them. The Giants. He won a Super Bowl with the Giants, and since he retired, Will Blackmon has become he's an online presence. He's everywhere. You can see him on Twitter all the time. But he's a wine connoisseur. That he's been in wine magazines for his taste in wine. I don't get that. I'm a simple man. I'm a beer guy, if you guys know me. And I don't know, like I'm not into like the subtleties of wine, but Will Blackmon is totally into that stuff. And there's been all sorts of articles on him and his work on that. Now, why do I bring up Will Blackmon right now? He's a fun guy to talk about, but there's a specific reason I'm bringing Will Blackmon up. And that is because there's been a palpable buzz that Will Blackmon is joining the Boston College staff. Now, he's not going to be a coach, like a on-field coach or like one of the main coaches, because BC's got Ray Brown to be the quarterbacks coach. They've got their defensive coordinator. They've got all the positions basically locked up. I mean, they could do like he could become like the safeties coach or something like that, but I think that's what Matt Thurin's going to be doing. So I don't think he'll be doing that. But he has been teasing, and it's been going on for like it feels like 2 weeks. But last week he teased that he's going to. He said he was in Boston. First of all, he doesn't live in Boston, but he said he was back in Boston. He was going to be changing his Twitter bio. He said that. And I was like, okay, maybe he's just trolling. He's a funny guy. Maybe he's just joking around. This is going to be something that goes away. And we're going to find out that, he's doing something completely different. Well, I thought that until I saw some more tweets. And I could tell you, I asked the staff, I said, hey, is Will Blackmon joining the staff? And I got no response. When you get no response and no answer, that's usually an answer in itself. If he wasn't, they would have told me. So I think this is going to happen. And then today, on Tuesday, Ray Brown tweeted out something that was like, bing, 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 red flags everywhere. And this is the tweet. He said, Will Blackmon, I think I know this dude. BC to the league, #new movement. So Ray Brown, I don't think would know Will Blackmon outside. Again, unless this is a miraculous troll job, I don't know how else they would know him. I know a lot of the other staff members are following him. I just saw Will Long. If you haven't checked him out, it's Coach Will BC on Twitter. He's following him. And so to me, it seems inevitable at this point that Will Blackmon is joining this. Unless this is like this big troll job that the entire staff is on, which I don't think they would do. I don't think that it would benefit the program to like joke around that not a legend, but a star of the past was joining and he really never was. But I don't know what that's going to mean. Is he going to take a assistant job like Chris Snee, right? Chris Snee is another BC legend who is now an assistant offensive line coach who does some recruiting. He does a lot of work behind the scenes, but he's not like a coach. He's learning how to be a coach because he didn't have a ton of experience. It's a good way to get his foot in the door. I could definitely possibly see Blackmon doing that. Now, Blackmon has run camps and he's done some coaching here and there. He hasn't had any strong jobs, though. He's around the same age as Snee, so that could be something that he could be doing. Or, and this is what I think is going to happen, it's more likely that maybe there's a position in terms of relations, right, with either high school or like in the recruiting office or personnel, where he's doing something for the program as more of a face and working as a face of the program, whether it's towards recruits, towards the players. I could see Blackmon doing something like that as well, because I could see Will Blackmon, to me, seems like a perfect fit for a guy that could just be like the face of your program. Like, he was a success at BC. He had a long NFL career. He's got the personality that could connect with young adults. Like, he seems like a perfect fit for that kind of role. And it would help tremendously in recruiting. It could help tremendously in alumni relations. He could do a whole bunch of things that BC hasn't been able to do for a while that could help really solidify the base of this program and get fans excited again. BC fans really like Will Blackmon. He's a very popular alumni. So to get him involved in this program again would be a home run. It's not going to like change the on-field product immediately, but it's one of those like smaller moves that you make. Now that you have him, you have Sneeze still there. You have a couple of big alumni that are part of your team, and that's a big thing. So I'm excited to see what happens. And he said, I think he tweeted it last week, so we should be finding out this week. But as folks on our board on Eagle Insider have said, the staff has been really quiet about all the hires. Like, I don't believe, last I checked like 2 days ago, the web bceagles.com hasn't updated any of the coaching hires except for Bill O'Brien. It's like Bill O'Brien and all Jeff Hafley's old staff. So they haven't announced any of that. But they also, so maybe they will, maybe they won't. My guess, if folks are wondering why they haven't announced anything, I bet they'll do what Hafley has done in the past, which is, I bet in Coach O'Brien's first press conference, which I think is March 11th, so a week from Monday, I bet he will talk about these hires, and they'll officially announce it on the first day of practice. I think they did that last year with Chud and Chimko and Paul Rhodes. So keep your eyes open for that. Now, while we're talking alumni relations, this has nothing to do with the staff itself, but Tim Hasselback is the new head coach of a high school in Tennessee, and which is interesting in itself. I know Tim Hasselback has had a long career in the media. Now he's getting into coaching. A lot of folks have been dying to get the Hasselbacks back on campus. And I've said all along, like, I love their names, but neither of them have any coaching experience. Do you really want them to learn on the job at a Power 5 program like right now? No, they need to kind of go through some steps to get there. Tim Hasselback is doing that. And then on Monday, Pete Thamel broke that Tim hired Matt to be his offensive coordinator. So folks that are excited about like a Will Blackmon and they're hoping that the Hasselbacks will join, they're both cutting their teeth in the high school level right now. They're at a very good high school in Tennessee, learning how to coach and getting that good experience. That could expedite their process to getting to BC in a couple years. So that's big news in itself. Now, in our final segment, I want to do a weekly feature, and this is going to be our BC recruiting spotlight. And I'm going to spotlight a potential target of Boston College, talk a little bit about them, what BC's chances are, the pros, the cons, and everything in between. You're going to want to hear my thoughts on all of that in just a moment. Now, eBay Motors has got you covered with your ride or die. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. They have everything that maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm AJ Black. This is now our recruiting spotlight. Now, if you want recruiting news, I've always told you, go over to Eagle Insider right now. We have news breaking all the time. I have a new official visitor from Florida that I have and a crystal ball in for that kid as well up on the site. You can go check that out. It's 30% off an annual subscription right now if you want to check that out. Now, one name I wanted to bring up. We've talked at length on this podcast about Bill O'Brien's need to build a wall around Massachusetts and New England. And he landed a recruit from the class of 26 in Massachusetts just a couple days ago. But now he has to work on the class of 25. We already know that Blake Hebert, quarterback, is going to go to Clemson, and there's no way BC's getting him. Just going to say that right now. Unless there's some like catastrophic change at Clemson, he's not going anywhere but Clemson. He's already said he's going to enroll early. That's the number one recruit in Massachusetts. He's going to lose him. Now, there's two big ones coming up. Wyatt Hardy, Hardy Wyatt, excuse me, an offensive lineman from Brookline, and Tommy Rupley. And this is who I want to talk about. Tommy Rupley, a defensive lineman from Belmont Hills. And why I want to bring him up. He's the number 3, according to 247, recruit in the state of Massachusetts. He's a good pass rusher. He's getting a lot of attention. He is a guy that is showing interest in Boston College, but O'Brien has his work cut out for this kid because I'm going to say this right now, that this previous staff did not do a good job of prioritizing this kid. Like, they were interested, but they didn't show much of that interest. And so because of that, Rupley has shown more interest in programs, and I believe he has 3 official visits set up now: Duke, UVA, and Northwestern. So clearly you can see he's got an interest in academics. This is a kid that wants to go to a good school. So Boston College should be a slam dunk to be in that list. And remember, BC can still get an official visit. He's only got 3. But remember, at the end of last year, they made it so that kids can take as many official visits as they want. So he can add more. So where does he stand with Boston College? He's very interested. He's enjoyed from my conversations with Tommy. He likes the relationships he's formed with Bill O'Brien. He likes the new staff. I just worry that now BC's got some work to catch up. While he's planning official visits, BC needs to get him on campus for unofficial visits. Those are the ones that the kids just kind of show up on campus. They do a visit around campus. They don't get the whole, wine or dine thing that you get with the official visit, right? So they've got to get that, and they got to kill it because they're running out of time. Once Tommy Rupley takes those official visits, and if BC's not in it, BC's in trouble. So they got to get this kid on campus. They got to showcase what they can do, why it's important for him to stay home, why it's important for him to get in a program that emphasizes getting ready for the NFL. Much more than UVA, I'm going to tell you that, in Duke. They can sell a lot of this stuff. Then they can get that official visit. If they can get him in for an official visit, those usually happen in June. So your unofficials are going to happen in March and April for those spring practices. June is when the official ones happen. And that's when a lot of action happens in terms of commitments. So they got to be able to be in that. They got to be in that discussion. They need to do that before he lands at Duke, Northwestern, or UVA. He is an important recruit for Boston College because you want to be able to get a top local recruit. You've already missed out on the quarterback, and that's not Bill O'Brien's fault. He committed last year. Clemson was his dream school. Hafley had no chance. Hafley actually really wanted him. He was trying before he left. I just don't think there's any chance that's going to change. So it goes down to Hardy, Wyatt, and Rupley. Wyatt, both of these guys could happen. And Wyatt I will talk about on another episode. But you got to get one of these guys. You got to get either. They're both top, like, high 3-star recruits. That would be a nice feather in your cap to start with your class of 2025 in terms of local recruits. Thank you all so much. So we got a lot planned. Tomorrow, I'm going to be joined by Beacon Street Ball. We're going to go live after the BC Miami game. We haven't had a whole episode dedicated to basketball in a while. Unless something big happens, I'm going to give him at least the first 2 segments. The third segment, if something football happens, believe me, I will take that last segment. But Beacon Street Ball will be here to talk about that game. And we'll talk about where BC's at. Then we've got getting ready for hockey. We have so much stuff coming on. Monday is the start of spring practice. So there's going to be lots to talk about over this next couple of weeks. So make sure you lock on BC everywhere you get your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247 or on Instagram or Facebook or all those good things. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And all you everydayers, You guys are the MVPs. You're the GOATs. Thank you so much. And for you new folks, hope you enjoyed it. We're the only daily Boston College podcast. If you're interested in Boston College sports talk, I hope to be that guy that you go to every day, because we are Locked On Boston College, your team every day.